Good evening, everyone. I'm Giselle Fernandez. Thank you for joining us here on the Rush Hour. Our top story this Tuesday, a national day of action protesting projected deep cuts to Medicaid in President Trump's new budget just passed by Congress. Democrats sounding the alarm over how the cuts will impact the health care of 70 million low-income Americans, 15 million of them right here in Los Angeles and throughout California. Taylor Schaub leads us off live with what's at stake. Good evening, Taylor.
Good evening, Giselle. You mentioned 15 million. That's actually 1/3 of California residents. Hard to believe how many rely on these services. And I heard two words today. That would be uncertainty and anxiety. That's how people are feeling about these proposed cuts, and they really just tell me that they want some sense of resolution to know what exactly is going to happen with their health care benefits.
I can use them, but I just don't have the control that I had.
Kevin Tuxford has learned patience the hard way. He feels it in his hands, once steady, now weak, and in his words, which come slower and sometimes slurred.
It's getting better, but it's taking time.
2 years after the pandemic took his job and benefits, a stroke nearly took his life. But Kevin, one of 15 million Californians on Medi-Cal, the state's Medicaid program, says that care saved him.
I can't picture myself still being alive without the assistance they've provided. If I had been left on my own, I don't think I would have made it.
Now he wonders if the lifeline that pulled him back will hold much longer, as a federal budget proposal backed by President Donald Trump calls for $2 trillion in spending cuts.
There's a ton of people who are going to be hurt.
The budget resolution doesn't name specific cuts, but the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office and some Democrats say it's nearly impossible to reach those savings without touching Medicaid.
One of the reasons we're doing this is to try to highlight the importance of Medicaid.
Tuesday, Democratic lawmakers across the country staged a day of action. In Redondo Beach, Congressman Ted Lieu sat down with residents like Kevin to explain what they believe is at stake.
Cuts to Medicaid that the Trump administration and Republicans are proposing would have a devastating effect on Americans, including in Southern California.
Republicans argue the concerns are overblown. Dr. Mehmet Oz, nominated to oversee Medicaid and Medicare, wouldn't say whether the cuts are coming, but promised to protect the most vulnerable.
I commit to doing whatever I can, working tirelessly to ensure that CMS provides Americans with access to superb care, especially Americans who are most vulnerable.
Thank you. For Kevin, that promise means everything, because he says he can't afford to pay another penny.
Hoping that there is some way to preserve these programs so they can still provide assistance to a public that needs it.
With so much uncertainty, some are starting to fear they may lose their safety net.
Now, Giselle, the party message to these Medicare recipients is make your voice heard, whether that be via social media or writing to your local congressman, that you need to tell them your story and about how these benefits tangibly affect your life.
And Taylor, who exactly are we talking about? Who is projected to be the most impacted by these cuts?
It's the most vulnerable, Giselle. It's the folks that need it the most. It's low-income households. It's our elderly who can't afford it. I mean, you heard Kevin there in the package. I mean, he's an elderly man who lost his job during the pandemic. 2 years later, he suffered a stroke. He doesn't have the money to be able to afford the rehab services that he needs just simply to get his life back on track. So that's really who we're talking about, folks that have no other options.
Yeah. Taylor Schaub reporting. Thank you so very much.